and then I'll just have to edit it instead of going from the start. I love the timing of the headphones, totally not even wanting to shut off. So thank you, Jam, for letting me know that. Also could be the space I'm in. But so basically in plank versus chaturanga, you're lengthening through your body. If you're using it in a jump back, you're going to land a little bit higher than you would in a chaturanga. Chaturangas are more as a hover. You're going to have elbows versus in plank, your elbows would be straight, like your arms would just be straight out. Versus chaturanga, you're in this little hover over your mat or over the floor, but it's not as high as plank pose. So those are like the two biggest ones that I'm going to show. So I'll just show them after without talking so that it doesn't sound so far away. And then I'll come back and look and see if there are questions. But your plank pose, your arms are straight, you're a little bit higher, you want to have your tail in line with the spine. You're really focused on that engagement of your core. So if you do a jump back, which a jump back, if you don't know what that is, it's when you're in your forward fold or uttanasana and you're literally your step, hop, or kicking, basically jumping back the legs. So the legs are going back and you're having that longness. So your head, your body, and then your legs would be at the back of the mat. That would be your jump back from your uttanasana. Typically in plank, you can hold it. You're going to keep that core engaged. It's going to work your full body, shoulders, arms, legs, and you're going to be steady. And you have the option to be on the knees or not. So I'll show that difference too. And the chaturanga, as I mentioned, it's a little bit hover. Your arms, your elbows are bent. You still have your core engaged, but there's a softness to it. Typically, when a teacher says they're going through chaturanga, that means that you're almost going through a flow. Typically, when you add in the chaturanga, you have your uttanasana, you take your step, hop, or jump back into your chaturanga. You tend to flow right into up dog and downward dog. So, and it's also known as the four-limbed staff pose. So it's more of a flowing movement. People don't really hang out in chaturanga. The only time I see people hang out in chaturanga is if they're in like a teacher training and the teacher is just analyzing or helping them to see that their body is in a good safe form of what chaturanga is. So I'm going to go ahead, like I said, I'm not going to talk through it, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to show first from kind of just a slow example of going from sun salutation, so from uttanasana, and then I'm just going to walk back into the plank, and then I'll go back to the front, and then I'll show the same thing with chaturanga. So we'll do the plank pose first. So let me change the view also. Doo-doo-doo. And maybe you can still hear me, I don't know, but typically your plank, you raise up, uttanasana, hands come. So that would be your plank pose. Now your chaturanga. Now I'll slow it down even a little bit more so you can see the differences you may catch them, you may not. So the first one will be plank, and then after will be the chaturanga. So it has that hover. So in that one, in the hover, you could see a little bit more that my elbows were bent. So I kind of hung out there in that hover for chaturanga. And those are really the big differences between plank. So like I said, you could walk and step back into it, especially if you're just warming up. You could hop into it a little bit more light as you're getting used to jump backs. And some people even call it like you could float almost because you look like you're floating, but floats can also take you forward to the top of the mat also. So if you're going to do the same, you do have the option to do it with knees. So I'll show plank with knees, and then I'll show chaturanga with knees. They're both going to work, especially my headphones are so, they're both going to work your, your upper body. You're working your shoulders, you're working your back, you're working your core. But like I said, that plank, you really have that engagement on your core. And then you can also go into side planks, which I have some tutorials on those and other videos. So I'll put some of those other videos with the side planks in the description after I post this if you want to see those. But so we'll do plank, plank with knees, and then chaturanga, chaturanga with knees. So your plank or plank with knees or the feet. And then chaturanga or chaturanga with knees. So those are the big differences between the two. Let me know, do you have one that you prefer, especially when you're doing jump backs? Do you prefer plank pose and then a nice hold and a work for your core? Do you like that flow? Especially people who do like vinyasa flow or hatha flow. It can kind of build a habit into just flowing through the chaturanga, going into the up and then downward dog, and then on and on to the rest of the flow from there. Everyone kind of has their preferences for that. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I don't know, depending on how the headphones were working, it really just depends. So there's a lot of debate on the internet about which one's better. It's really personal choice, depending on one's strength, depending on the style of classes they do. If you're doing more of like an Ashtanga class, you may see more of those nice kind of landing and jumping back into a plank because they want to hold and work their core. Or if you, like I said, if you sit vinyasa flow, you might hear a teacher call off chaturanga, and everyone in class just knows, oh, chaturanga dandasana. They go from their uttanasana, chaturanga, down onto belly, or into up dog, then downward dog, Adho Mukha Shavasana. So it's totally, I'd love to hear, your experience with this, what you prefer. Do you have any questions about, if you've had shoulder injuries, if you've had anything going on with your back, and how to then adapt outside of just having the knees on the ground? If you feel like the knees on the ground kind of takes you out of your element, or maybe like you feel like it kind of changes your flow, and so you're looking just for another adaptation, I'm happy to answer those questions. So thanks for tuning in, and then I'll see you next time. Take care.